Hey, what's up studs, Ryan here, or M&R Productions, and in today's video, we're going to be going through some LEGO Star Wars sets that I used to hate. I didn't like them, I didn't want to buy them, or maybe I bought them and soured on them, and then I came back around on them. So in today's world, I don't vehemently hate or have any real disdain for these particular sets. So I'm sure there are some sets that you've had in your life that you got and ended up not liking, or just didn't buy because you didn't like them and then ended up liking them later on. So let me know if you have any sets like that for yourself down below and why. But these are in no particular order, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, first set up, the Summer 2020 AAT Armored Assault Tank. Just kidding, this set still sucks. And it always will, because it's just terribly inaccurate. First real set on this list here is the Twilight. This is a 2008 Clone Wars set that I always just saw as this big, ugly, gray blob that wanted to be the Millennium Falcon for like one movie, but really never saw any use outside of that. Plus, it was just nowhere near as appealing as the Millennium Falcon. It kind of reminds me of a B-Wing in a way, with that extended fin down the side of it, but it is a big, bulky ship. It's one that I still, to this day, don't own. In fact, it's the only set on this list that I don't own as a LEGO Star Wars set, but for me, it just never really connected with me, and back in the day when it was out and available, I just vehemently hated this set. I was like, dude, the gunship and ATT are clearly better, and they still are, in my opinion, obviously, but this set isn't as bad as I think I gave it a lot of flack for, and for that, I don't hate it anymore. It's just never going to be my favorite set, but yeah, it's off the bad list, so to speak. Now, these next two sets are January 2021 sets, and I still have varying opinions on these. It remains to be seen whether or not these will be realized to the full potential that these two sets should be used for, but the TIE Fighter and X-Wing for January 2021, I certainly had a lot of harsh opinions on coming into, but after receiving and building the sets, they aren't as bad as I would say I thought they would be. They certainly aren't great. These definitely aren't the best TIE Fighter and X-Wing you'll ever get, but I don't hate them like I thought I would. I certainly think they're worth picking up if you don't have either model in a LEGO format from the previous like 15 years basically. But yeah, they ended up with pretty decent figures and at a pretty fair price. They're certainly not the best thing since sliced bread, but they're also not the devil. Next up is the Luke's Landspeeder. Now this one very particularly I really hated because it was a very quick re-release. It was just off the heels of the 2017 Luke's Landspeeder retiring. Not a great look for LEGO Star Wars in my opinion, but nonetheless, it's not a bad set. I really didn't like it because it was a re-release, and that was pretty much the main reason I hated this one, on top of the fact that I felt like it was overpriced compared to the older one. But in general, it's actually a really beautiful design that is a real upgrade from previous models of Luke's Landspeeder. Unlike what we saw with the TIE Fighter and the X-Wing, this was no downsize. This was actually an upgrade build-wise from the previous versions. The minifigures I felt might have been lacking, but in general, the set isn't as bad as I thought it was. Now next up is Cad Bane Speeder, a 2010 summer Target exclusive, one that I really wanted when it came out. I very specifically remember going to Target to buy this and being really excited to like show my grandma or whatever, but then I soured on this one. It was $50, and it still, to me, is probably one of the most overpriced LEGO Star Wars sets that has been released to date at $50 back when it was released, and you can say now it'd very safely be like a $60 set, and it just doesn't look like it's worth $60. But it was one that I soured on because of that price, and I think looking back on it, it's not as bad as I once thought it was. It's one that I now end up with a lot of nostalgia for, and I think that's what I can say for quite a few of these sets on this list, is that I ended up turning on them because of nostalgia, that my hatred just turned into like nostalgic love for them for some reason or another. And another one of those is the Pirate Tank. Now this is a set that I got, I think my parents actually bought me when they were on a trip. I'm pretty sure this one actually came from the Mall of America in Minneapolis, which is pretty cool, from that LEGO store there. But this one, I liked it when I got it, and then I was like, yeah, this kind of sucks, like this ugly brown thing. And I actually ended up taking this one specifically apart to get like, I think there's like 4 dark bluish gray 2x4 bricks in there, and this was like 2010, 2011, so dark bluish gray 2x4 bricks were a hot commodity. Everybody was building bases out of dark bluish gray 2x4 bricks, and so I just had to have as many as I could, and I tore this set apart just to get the few that were in here out of it and to use them in a mock. That's how much I didn't like this set, because I'm someone that very rarely, if ever, takes sets apart, especially to use them for parts in a mock. That's just not something I do. So yeah, that was something I did in this case because I just really didn't like the set for whatever reason, but it's one that I've very much come around on. The 2016 Turbo Tank was a very criticized set when it first came out, mostly because it was the predecessor to what was probably the best Turbo Tank LEGO will ever make, with the 2010 Clone Wars version. But this turbo tank, although it was downsized, wasn't all that bad looking back on it. It was so bad, in my opinion, back in the day that even when it was on clearance for $70 at Walmart, I didn't buy any more. And like I said, looking back on it, I don't think it's all that bad anymore. I've really come around on the design and how compact looking it is, and I think it's just an overall well-rounded build with decent figure selection. Could be better, obviously, but that's always the case with pretty much everything. But yeah, this is one that I definitely came around on as well, and it's probably a surprising one to a lot of people. Ryan, why would you hate a clone turbo tank? It's a clone turbo tank. Next up is the Yoda versus Count Dooku set. This is one that I also bought when it first came out. It has Poggle the Lesser. It's got a wonderful figure selection. I'm not really sure why I soured on this one after buying and building it, but the design of it I found generally messy, and for myself, I typically find a lot more pleasure in looking at Lego sets that are just both symmetrical and really like clean modern designs. So like a Star Destroyer or something that's just really symmetrical, really clean, not a lot of like variance to the design. And this, of course, is just the complete opposite of that. And I still don't find the cave design and everything particularly appealing, but it's just a set that I don't feel like I hate anymore, right? Like, and maybe that's true of a lot of things where I've come around on, like, you don't just need to hate something because you don't like it. But I kind of feel indifferent about this one above all else, I think is a great way to describe it. Now, next up, the Sith Infiltrator, Toys R Us exclusive from 2015, I believe. This one I thought was a bulky disaster at $90. And looking back on it, it is still kind of a bulky disaster. I mean, this Sith Infiltrator is ginormous compared to some of the other ones. It really is. And I kind of appreciate it for that, though. It's surprisingly big. And for $90, I think it was well worth the price tag looking back at it. I think it was one of those price per piece things where it was like 662 pieces. That's off the top of my head, by the way. We'll see if I was right. Look at the box count there. But it ended up being this just behemoth build that's certainly worth the money despite the price per piece not being what you would want it to be. Because I think price per piece is a dumb way to kind of calculate what is worth it for a Lego set. But yeah, this one was certainly not very high on my list. We have the General Grievous Speeder. This one was certainly overpriced. This one, unlike the Sith Infiltrator, even though it has a bad price per piece, it's still a bad value for a set. I think the main reason this set costs so much, though, is General Grievous. The General Grievous sets just tend to be inflated, and this one is no different, with 157 pieces retailing for $30 US. The build itself is actually a pretty nice build, as it turns out. It's one of those sets in Lego Star Wars that I think is a prime example of where a lot of people when this set came out were like, $30, are you high, Lego? Like, this is way overpriced. What are they smoking in Denmark? And then when you come back at it now, people will come and tell me, oh, hey, I got it for $50. I got a great deal. And it's like, well, right, but it was when it was $30, it was overpriced, but now it's $50 not. It's kind of one of those things where demand and kind of the perceived rarity of a product when something retires and just the value goes up, and so all of a sudden people value it differently and look at it differently. And this is one of the best examples of that, I think, where people can look at it and be like, well, yeah, way back in the day we're like, whoa, this is overpriced, what are they thinking? And then now if you get it for $50 sealed, you're like, oh my god, I got a steal. And it's like, well, did you really? So yeah, this is one of those sets to me where like I don't hate it anymore. I really disliked it when it first came out, but I don't think it's all bad. Now this one is one I swore I would never buy from Star Wars Rebels, and my opinion on Star Wars Rebels has shifted completely in the last year, especially thanks to Admiral Thrawn and Darth Maul being in it. I think that really helped me love the series. But this, the Imperial Assault Carrier, did show up in Mandalorian, which I guess helps it now, but I actually had already kind of turned on it and bought the set before Mandalorian Season 2 came out, and for whatever reason, I just really disliked the design of this thing from Star Wars Rebels, and because of those little TIE fighters, I thought they were kind of bulky and weirdly designed, and certainly not the best they could be compared to other things I've seen in Lego about that size for TIE fighters. But I think ultimately the set wasn't as bad as I always thought it was, and for that reason I think I came around on it. Now, two more here. We have the Republic fighter tank from summer of 2017. This one, a lot of people would tell me time and time again, it's more minifigure scale accurate, and I disagree with the way that is like word. Like, I don't care about minifigure scale myself. I think that the 2008 Republic fighter tank is the best Republic fighter tank of the two. Like, it's not a contest, but I don't think that this set is as bad as I once thought it was, or definitely said it was a lot of times. It was one that I thought was way undersized. It was a huge downsize from that 2008 model, and you can see at half the price. You wouldn't be wanting half the model like that. Like, it just didn't look great. It's one that I've come around on, like I said, still not my favorite Republic fighter tank, but not as bad as it once was. And the final set on this list, the 2010 10 TIE Defender. 55 bucks was very expensive for me back in the day, and I had decided to buy this set for some reason. I don't remember why, but I do very specifically remember buying it at Target with my grandma, and I was like, I'm gonna spend my $55 on this. Like, I don't know why I didn't just buy an ARC 170 or something instead. I guess I already had it maybe, but still, this one had 2 figures, which were kind of lame. Like, for 55 bucks, like, where's my Darth Vader? Where's something unique? Where's, I guess in modern day, you'd be like, where's Grand Admiral Thrawn? Like, he would have fit perfectly in this set if this set had come out 5 years later, but it didn't. And so we ended up with this model that was just kind of this lame TIE fighter to me, that like its only main feature was that it spun, but in later years I found that that was really fun. And I've really come around on the design of this thing. I think it's a really unique TIE design, especially compared to other things that Star Wars has come out with nowadays, with like the TIE Dagger, that's basically a TIE Interceptor, and like Von Reich's TIE Fighter, which is definitely a TIE Interceptor. Like, I think this is one of the more unique things from the Imperials for LEGO Star Wars compared to other things, so I really appreciated it for that nowadays. I still think it's overpriced, but hey, that's most TIE Fighters for LEGO Star Wars, I guess. But those are the LEGO Star Wars sets that I used to really just dislike, had a strong disdain for, and now I've kind of come around on. I don't hate them so much anymore. I look back on them fondly and love them for what they are. So let me know if you guys have any LEGO sets like that down in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.